Hi.
We are here already for
Hi.
you, so you can start. Thank you.
Awesome. Hi. Hi, guys. Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me. Thanks for letting me explain a little bit what we do at Nolla and what is Nolla. It's always a pleasure to put the word out and be able to explain a little bit who we are and what we are trying to achieve. There is not much time, so I will try to start quick so we can touch a little bit like everything that we're trying to do here. So my name is Albert. I'm originally from Barcelona, and I'm one of the three owners from Nolla. Nolla is a restaurant located in Helsinki. We have like 70 seats. We are on the city center, and our idea is just to cook simple food. It's very produce oriented, and we use like finished produce, local produce, and I developed later what means local. With actually we trying to bring our like southern soul. Two of my partners, one is Portuguese and one is Serbian, so it would not make much sense to cook Finnish food per se. So we try to have this like a little play on what we are cooking, just to bring a little bit like our roots. Um, when we open Nolla, the idea is obviously like to open a restaurant that serve good food, that have good wines, that people like have good time when dining with us. But we were not quite happy enough only by trying to achieve that. We wanted always to bring like some social value to the restaurant, that it had like an extra, how to say, like a goal, and make the project a little bit more meaningful. Everyone that has worked in restaurants, I think, can understand like the amount of waste that is produced in there, like the massive problem that it is actually on the industry, and that was maybe the easiest path to choose and try to solve this problem with waste. um I think waste, it became like so normal, like we all use clean film, we all use vacuum bags, products that are like already born to throw away, that I think like we don't even anymore like understand or perceive what it's actually waste per se. So maybe what we are trying here is a little bit to denormalize the creation of waste, try to pinpoint like how we are wasting, why we are wasting, and try to solve a little bit of that. I think we all can agree that we have a problem, and that we are like really failing on that. So maybe it's time to act more like responsibly and to take action on this waste product. So basically, Nola was born with the idea of create a model of a restaurant that at the end of the day doesn't produce any waste, and it's a model that it's not trying to solve what to do with waste. And I think it's a very important, and I will stop here a second, like we are trying to prevent the waste of ever being created, because yeah, it doesn't make any sense that we have like a big waste of I don't know, convert PET bottles in a textiles or etc etc. But what if we would not in first place produce or consume these PET bottles? We all know like the amount of energy that it goes into upcycling, into recycling. So maybe we could avoid all that from just like prevention, not like tackling or solving the issue. Um, how we try to do that? Please, if you can move to the next slide. So thank you. So this is our restaurant. From day one, and because of the sake of normalizing what we are doing, we don't believe that we will help much to the cause if we are still like something very exceptional, something very different, something, yeah, that it goes very much out from the norm. So the idea is like to have a place that is a normal restaurant, but that's just that it happens to work in a very different way. One of the first things, obviously, when opening a restaurant, you need like furniture, you need crockery, you need like glasses, you need cutlery, you need napkins. So our idea was to kind of like reverse a little bit like the supply chain and think not what new things we could get, but which all things on how using all materials we could like create, like build the restaurant where people will be hosted. So few examples here on the dining room. We have, as an example, the shelves where the glasses are, or like the wine cabinet, like it's all wood taken from an all pavilion. The glasses on the table are made from reused soda bottles. The cutlery, it's all Finnish design that we've been like collecting from different vintage stores. Our plates for the customers, for example, we have like 3 lines. One of them that is, they are made not using energy, so they are like hand pressed and made like in a wood fire oven. The other one is made using a reused clay from the university. So there is a person that take the clay that has been used in the students atelier and remakes this clay to make like new plates. And then there is as well like second hand plates. Another example is like the flower pots that we use. We work with this ceramics called yatta. So basically these pots are like seconds, so they have some like a little marks or little tara that she couldn't sell them on a normal market because it didn't fit the aesthetics, how to say, like needs. It's still very hard for me to understand, but anyway, so we just purchase them from them. So the idea is that is like how much we could furbish our restaurant without using new materials. Once we had the restaurant, I think we go to kind of like our daily operations. If you guys can move to the next slide. And here we will start. I will start with food. That it's mainly like what we focus our operation. I think it's important to say as well that at Nolla we don't use intercepted food. I think this is like a misconception when you talk about zero waste a lot of times. Oh, you are the guys who go to the recycling containers or to shops to find this like expired or almost expired food, and then you no. Like we try to use the best quality ingredients, and the point of not using this intercepted, expired, however we want to call it, food, is because we don't believe that by kind of like putting makeup on this like a massive issue that we have with the food industry, like food production industry, of like a overproduction, we will help on it if we kind of like take out from these already expired ingredients that they've been had like overproduced, still giving money to the companies that are overproducing. I don't think we will never get out of it. So that's one of the reasons why we don't use any of the intercept food. We love to work with like small producers from the area. When I say before that we use local ingredients, and I will explain a little bit, it's like we don't understand locality as a created borders. We believe that locality is a 250 kilometers radius. So all our food come from this 250 kilometer radius. That means that it takes Finland, but it takes as well the northern part of Estonia. And I think that the furthest ingredient that we use is 300 kilometers away. That is the vara. We couldn't find like better vara, and we made this concession of like 50 kilometers just for this product. I think there is a lot of waste that we like to call it invisible waste, and that's one of the reasons of this radius of 250 kilometers. And I mean the waste that, for example, is like transportation, and yeah, we try to avoid further away just for the sake of that, of like mostly nowadays it's still like using like fuels. that are not like very good for our environment. The small producers that we work with, mostly from the area, they have very similar mindset as us. We try to work with certified organic, certified biodynamic, but as well sometimes if we go to visit the farm and we believe that they work like in a way that it's really close to us, we still, even they are not certified, we work with them. And I think this is as well like a easy way to understand where the food comes from, the effort that it takes to create these ingredients, the energy that go for it. So like not taking for granted like anything that you throw away on the process of cooking. If we go to the next slide, I think this is one of the pillars what is coming next of our operation, and it's maximizing the food of ingredients. I think traditionally, like on the cooking industry, we created these parts of ingredients that, let's call it like more noble parts that everyone wants to use, and then there is like these parts that they are like without thinking or without putting much effort to it, like we just throw away. I put the stupid example of a carrot, where we use only the middle part of the carrot. Sometimes in restaurants, not even that, because we still like turning it and we try to polish and we try to make it like beautiful, and we throw away like all the rest that it's completely good to use. And it's not only like a lack of respect for the ingredient, but as well as we were talking before, like for the producer. So at Nola, we are trying to, every time that comes an ingredient in house, like try to rethink what we want to do with what we will do with all the parts that this ingredient has to give us. Obviously, there is still things that has not been solved. Like as an example, like eggshells or certain parts of fish or meat once the stocks are done. But from vegetables, I could say that around 99.5% of what it comes in house is used and it reaches to the table in a way or another. One of the good things, if we move to the next slide, one of the good things of working with the small producers, and probably like a second pillar of our operation, is like we don't accept anything that comes in single-use packaging. So no styrofoam, no plastic, vacuum plastic, no clean films, nothing that it's like born to be thrown away can pass the doors. So we needed to rethink a lot ways of how to deliver a nolla. Vegetables are easy. Most of them, they have like their own packaging. But for things like fish or meat or dairy, we needed actually to go backwards to understand how they were delivering before all these methods like vacuum bags especially were created. That doesn't mean that we are Luddites, and we really do believe that without actual technology it's very hard to move forward. But I think we sometimes need to reflect on the past, because there was already ways of working that were that they were fine, and they were like obsolete for like I think, in my opinion, like overthinking sometimes of like how to maximize production. So this case of a packaging is one of them. And as well, I've been talking a lot about food, but I think it's good to say that Nola, like the idea is to be like a holistic idea. It's not just like concentrated on the kitchen, but as well in front of the house. We are trying to achieve the same zero waste way of working. And here is an example. We work for our liquors with a Helsinki distillery, 5 kilometers from like 4.5 kilometers from the restaurant. They told us at the beginning that for legislations, it could be only a small, like 500 mils, like bottles, and everything needed to be labeled, etc., etc. We just like took a look on it, and basically the only real thing that needed to be is to have like the sticker that it says like which produce it is, and it like the expiring dates, etc., etc. So basically, we receive our liquors in these like 10-liter canisters that they go back and forth between us and the factory. And then every time that we receive one canister, we actually avoid 20 bottles of glass to be produced and thrown away or recycled. That it seems not much, but when at the end of the year you use quite many liters, especially now in the season that we are entering. There is a lot of bottles at the end of the day, and a lot of glass and material and energy consumption that is being saved. If we go to the next bucket, to the next slide, sorry. So the next slide is our coffee. It was a little bit the same, coffee it needs to be delivered to the restaurant in vacuum bag to keep like organoleptic kind of like properties. There is no way that we can do it without it, etc., etc. So we were looking a little bit for it. We found these containers. Basically, these containers, they let air to go out, but they don't let air to come in a way that that keeps the proper like the perfect characteristics like of the coffee. And this is as well an example how by taking action you can affect a little bit the market. So when we started working with them 5 years ago, we were the only restaurant that we were working with them on that way. But at the moment, every restaurant that they deliver in with this packaging, avoiding a ton of a vacuum bags that they've been like selling every year. So sometimes even we think that maybe this is a little bit too little, but the impact that could be created, it's way bigger. If we go to the next slide. So as I said, we don't accept any single-use packaging, but it's not only that we don't accept, but it's like as well that we don't use. So in our kitchen, we don't use any clean film, any vacuum bags, any single-use boxes. We try to rethink a little bit like how we could package all these mise en place ingredients that we receive in a different way. And we actually found that the easiest way and the most common sense is just using a lid. Most of the restaurants, they get containers, but they don't want to use a lid for the reasons that I really don't understand. So boxes are covered with clean film. So we realized that by using lid, it's probably like the easiest way as well. Like one action that being very little can have like a massive like effect on the operation. If we go to the next slide, sorry. So this is another example of how to save packaging, but as well like products that sometimes, they are not as good to use like heavy detergents. So this is a ozonated water system. So ozonated water is H2O2. So the only difference with water is that there is like more like ozone into it, and ozone has like a big properties of disinfectant, killing bacteria, etc., etc. So we could cut at the moment up to, I would say, 70% of the detergents used in the restaurant just by installing this machine, a machine that cost, I think it was 1,700 euros. So if we make calculations about the amount of detergents that we use a year, even on that way, economic way, it makes a lot of sense. But as well, like environmental wise, like we avoid like to throw down the drain like all these heavy duty detergents that we regularly use in restaurants. It's not working in hot water. So that means that, for example, when we use our washing machine for dishes, it's still something that it cannot be used. But for everything else, we've been using it, and it's again another example of how to cut on environmental costs, and as well like a packaging. If we could go to the next slide. This is I would say the third pillar of our operation, and it's like the composter. We have this composter on the dining room, once again, for the sake of normalizing our operations. At the restaurant, we don't have bins. This was the first exercise that we did. We took out all the bins just to understand like how we could work and where the waste was created. And the little organic waste produce that we produce, we have it in transparent boxes to understand as well like how much we produce, and at the end of the day it goes in the composter. The composter is a technology that it works, at least for us, like super well. There is a bedding of like a heating bottom. There is the mass inside. We need to add some humidity and there is some bacteria inside that they are breaking down the mass. Wet things like, I would say, vegetables or things like that, 24 hours, they are broken down. If we go for like a more like robust, let's call it waste, like bones from up to chicken and duck, or like fish bones, or even corks, it can take more like fish bones a week, chicken bones up to 2 weeks, and then the corks maybe can go up to 3 weeks. This is a way, if we can go to the next slide, this is a way of closing a little bit the loop between us and the producer. We know that the produce that is coming from the producer is top. So the waste that is produced, it's transformed in compost, and then this compost is taken back to the producers to fertilize the fields. Not only to fertilize the fields, but as well, we understood now that some of them are using it as a bedding for animals, because it's like very absorbent. And then after that, it goes to be used on the fields. So basically, from what we could call waste, after that, there is not only one use, but it's still like two uses for it. And we close a little bit the loop of between produce coming, produce going, in a way. If we go to the next slide, and now I understand that you could be thinking, oh, look at this guy is telling me that they don't have bins, but this composter is actually like a big bin on the dining room where they throw everything that they don't know what to do with, or etc. And here it's where it comes in place, Habiki Mesari. So this is an app where we can monitor everything that goes inside the composter. So there is, I think, 12 different categories, and it works on, you need to feel what you are throwing away, how much you are throwing away, and why you are throwing away. So basically, at the end of the month, we do some readings to allocate hotspots on the operation, and then in that way, we can allocate where we are failing and solving. When we started, we realized that around 75-80% of things that we were going to the compost were used. At the moment, we are about 97-98% of everything that goes to the compost has been used at least once. And there is exceptions, as I say before, as eggshells that we still don't know what to do with it, or there is always like some failures that it happened for like a human errors. If we go to the next slide, this concept like brings a lot of limitations, but I think limitations increase creativity, and I show you like few ways of like how creatively we try to solve different issues related to waste. This one is bottles that we use at the restaurant, gin bottles, wine bottles. We use them for like putting water. We use it for like our on the rocks glass. We use it to put our candles on the bottoms. We use like to serve butter. So it's like a basically crockery that it became like very normal to use for us on the restaurant. If you go to the next slide, the next slide is it's a dish. One of the dishes that we did at the beginning, it's a peel. So we really like to use byproduct from other companies, like what it's saying, no waste for one, gold for the other. So this is like a sturgeons that they were coming from an operation of like a caviar production in Barkhouse. We realized that the sturgeon fish was thrown away, was not used. So we started asking if we could purchase them. We started using the fish. The fish got a little bit more used in restaurants. So what we asked the fishmonger is only to purchase skins, bones, all the parts of the fish that others didn't want it. And then we created this creamy sauce. It's almost like a pil. I'm from Spain, so very traditional, like a sauce from the north of Spain, made with cod, but here like mimic with a sturgeon. And we could use all these byproduct that from other company. We use lemon skins, bread, malt bread. There is like a big range of chocolate, like of produce that we use. from other companies, because yeah, we really do believe that byproduct is actually just another product, and it's really good to use to clear as well like waste from other companies. If we go to the next slide, this is when we were talking about maximization of ingredients in our restaurant. We have like a brewery, so we use a lot of malts to produce the beer, and then we were thinking, oh, what should we do with these malts that normally like go discarded? We didn't find a way of like how possibly we could send it to a farm to feed the animals. That it's actually what should be done, but it was kind of complicated. So this is usage of like 3 times the same malt. So the malt, it's done beer. With this beer, we do a caramel. The malt that is left, we infuse it in milk, and we do with the spent grain, basically. We do like an ice cream. And then the spent grain that has been infused on the ice cream, we dry it, we make flour, and we make the crumble that it's under. So it shows that with a little bit of creativity, a little bit of imagination, you actually can maximize massively like the use of ingredients. If we go to the next slide. So this is our clothing. We collaborate with Talco, it's like a design company. So our clothes that we are wearing at the restaurant, they are made with all wet linens. So they are taken from hospitals mostly. And it's actually really good because the materials used on like a bed linens on hospitals, they need to be like very durable. They need to take like high temperature on the washing, and it's actually something that has been like really useful for us. And yeah, again, another way like creatively thinking like how to transform waste into something useful. And then another slide. And this is the soap company that takes our frying soap, or like the soap that is being frying oil, or the oil that has been used for cooking, and is transformed into soap that comes to the restaurant. So this as well like another way of like technology or ways of like working that has a little bit of thought how to fill them on the operation, and it can solve as well a massive amount of waste, like the oil in this case produced for us. And still one more, and I think this is the last slide. I think it would be hypocrite to talk about sustainability if we wouldn't talk about as well like social sustainability. I think it's very important to understand and to work a lot, especially in the restaurant industry where we all know the flaws that has been happening for many years, to take care of like the well-being of our team. And this is as well in our core values. Make sure that the employees, they work the hours they need to work, that they have the time to rest, that they have like a balanced life. We offer them like cultural passes, like transportation. All of them has like a written contract. There is a balance of hours, etc., etc. Things that seems like very normal, but that sadly in our industry are not. And as well, that for us is like a massive fight to make our industry more like healthy as well on that side. And a little bit to conclude, we are not perfect. Every day we break plates, a computer breaks, a phone breaks. But I think that the most important thing is to try to do good, even you are not perfect. Think on the actions that you are taking daily. We created, I think, like robust ways of like how to handle waste. But I think we still need to put a lot of effort on like prevention of this waste. Sorry, and this is a little bit like the fight that we are taking here. And nothing much. Thanks a lot for all the ones that have been here listening. I really hope you found like our project at least a little bit interesting. You can take something, even it's little, from it. And I really hope that next time we all meet, I don't need to explain about Nolla, the zero waste restaurant. and I just can explain about this restaurant because sustainable practices has like so extended and so normal that it's nothing to pinpoint anymore. So thank you for your time, and I hope you all had a nice time with us. If there is, thank you. I cannot hear you guys, so sorry.
Thank you for your time. It was incredible presentation, and my mind has blown. I admire your devotion for the subject. It was really good presentation.
Thank you.
And next time when I go to Helsinki, so I have to try to book a table from your restaurant. Does anyone have any questions? Where we are, so. Yeah, I know that you are scheduled, but we have 4 minutes maybe. So does anyone have any questions? Kysymyksiä myös suomeksi. Niin. So questions.
Kysy, mikä on ollut vaikeinta.
One question. What has been the hardest part of this project, project?
I hear you a little bit broken. Sorry. If you can repeat the question.
Can you hear better when I talk here?
So yeah, I hear you now.
Yeah. So what has been the hardest part of this whole process?
I think it's the part of relearning. Like I think that except cooking something on a pan or on an oven, nothing else that I have learned or we have learned in a traditional way of working in restaurants is useful or has been useful at Nolla. And I think it's like a changing the mentality, relearning how to operate a restaurant or a kitchen or a front of the house, and passing this mindset to people that came along during the process. That was probably like the most complicated part of it. I think, yeah, the cooking or like talking with people, I think you can more or less like understand with each other, and we actually are really impressed of how easy sometimes it was to get people along on like delivering fish, meat, etc. Like just by explaining a little bit like why we do that, what are the goals, like what is the idea behind it. But this relearning has been definitely like the toughest part of it, because you find lost very easily. You don't have where to look to find examples or to find directions. So yeah, we hit our head many times on the wall, but you definitely like believe moving forward. But that, I would say, it's definitely like the hardest part of the project. I think now people like talk a little bit more about zero waste or like sustainability, but like 6 years ago when we started like in the restaurant and we were talking about zero waste in a restaurant, people was not, I think, even understanding what we were talking about. Like I remember, yeah, these things like, oh, you're picking like a food from containers. Oh, really? Packaging? I never thought about it as waste, or like all these kind of things. So like this relearning, like explaining, opening a little bit like what we do. It's definitely the one that made me like feel white hair.
Thank you. Onko lisää kysymyksiä?
Ehkä tuohon, että mikä on sitten joku vinkki siihen, että nämä asteet, niin kuin, miten tätä relearningia he on saanut tehtyä parhaalla mahdollisella tavalla?
Ei kirjoita sitä vielä varmuuden vuosi. I'm not sure if you can hear me, but what about this relearning? What are the, how do you say, first step, how to start? What are the most important steps to achieve what you have to achieve?
I think the most important is no concessions. I think that was very important from the beginning. It's like we believe in that and we are moving that direction. Even sometimes it's not 100% pleasant, especially mentally, because you get like fireback or like people like don't follow. But I think the no concessions is the first step. It's like you believe on it, you go for it. Because if you start with concessions of like, oh, today I accept something to come with plastic, how are you gonna stop the next time? Or today I don't have finished, I don't know, zucchini, so I will buy them from, I don't know, Spain. that I don't know how they are cultivated. I don't know which the pesticides used behind it. I don't know if the person that was growing them or picking them has been given like a proper wage. If you start with all these concessions, then I think the model or the idea of or the business doesn't make any sense anymore. So no concessions, I think, is the first step, and truly like believe in it and to keep improving and learning. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm sorry that it's not very like practical kind of thing, and it's a bit more like abstract, but it's
Yeah, but that's a principle anyway. You have to commit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you. Onko lisää?
Thank you very much.
You have to leave, but thank you. Many thanks, and have a nice rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. Have a nice evening. Bye.